I think.
Gruesome Magazine.
I am your host, Jeff Mohr, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in theatrical releases, streaming, and video-on-demand horror movies. Each week, Doc Rotten, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and I will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. I think Doc gave me this movie because of the cast, and we'll see that later. But not with us this week is my co-host Doc Rotten. He is out for some needed R&R, hopefully having fun and not checking his email or anything. But I am joined by Crystal Cleveland, the Living Dead girl. How are you doing, Crystal?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm not having a baby. I'm not pregnant, so that's good, I guess. Oh God. Okay.
Yeah.
This is why I don't try to do anything.
I don't
try to do anything related to the movies because I fail horribly.
Also with us is Christopher G. Mohr.
Mm-hmm.
Award-winning director.
This is why I have writers. This is why writers should write my stuff.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I'm not having a baby either.
Yay!
I'm not pregnant either. So we're twinsies.
Not the mama. Not the mama.
It's funny how that works out, isn't it? Not the mama.
I know.
All right. So let's get right to it. Our film this week is, if I can find the slide, here we go, Nightmare. 2023 on Shudder, available streaming on Shudder beginning September 29th, 2023. The synopsis: not all nightmares are over when you wake up. And that's true for a lot of reasons. As you can see by the cast, this is a Norwegian movie written and directed by Kjersti, Helen, Rasmussen. The cast includes Eili, Harboe, Herman, Tømmeraas, and Dennis Storhøi.
Sounds good.
That's
about as good as it's going to get.
So anyway.
And I'm sure none of that is pronounced like that at all, but
I'm sure it's not either. I sometimes take the time to run it through the translator, but I didn't today. So what we do here is give our first impressions, spoiler free, and then we go into more detail with spoilers. And first up with first impression, since he's already in the hot seat, is Christopher G. Mohr. What did you think of Nightmare?
Well, I think it's shot well. But I think it's one of those films to where, for me, if I don't connect with it fully and it's very dreary, it's hard for me to enjoy it. And this is one of those films that was hard to enjoy, mainly because the dreariness of the subject matter and the characters who were just dreary. And plus, I didn't really feel like that the arc of the main character didn't really have much of an arc, I guess. I mean, it has a lot of those elements. You know, I would say it's almost like a darker version of Nightmare on Elm Street to some degree, but with more demon aspect. Some of the technology is interesting and some of the ideas are interesting in it. But overall, I don't want to say it negatively, but it's almost like a sludge of dreariness that you have to get through to the very end. And then the ending, I think, kind of cops out into sort of what is real or what is not type stuff, which I really hate. I mean, I don't mind it sometimes if it's a little bit like in a gray area, but this one, it was like, yeah. And then I think the ending just didn't feel like it had a really good ending for where the story was taking us. But it's got some really creepy elements, and it definitely is kind of I'd say ballsy and how there's some moments like WTF moments, which is like, what just happened there? But overall, I mean, I think it's got some good elements, but for me was a really hard watch because it was just, the subject matter was just so dreary. It was like, I need to take a shower or watch a watch like Dumb and Dumber or something after this to sort of get the darkness out of me.
Mhm,
But overall, I think it's shot well. It's just the Dreary subject matter just didn't click or work for me.
Okay, fair enough. Crystal, the Living Dead girl, what about you?
So, first, let me say that I will never ever move to Norway because I don't want to be the ugliest person in that country. I mean, apparently everyone from Norway is gorgeous. Just gorgeous and good for them.
Even the guys that Robbie was
Yeah.
quite gorgeous, wasn't he?
Yeah, all of the whole. It didn't matter if they were old, young. They were all just really pretty people, and I was like, "That's
Well,
nice for
I
you."
think it's just called casting well.
Perhaps that's it too. I think the movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it a lot more than Christopher. I will acknowledge what he says. I agree with a lot of that, but I got into the story and I actually I don't know if it's my mindset right now, but typically I can get really depressed with these kind of dreary movies, but I got into it this time. I actually let it like kind of just seep in. Maybe it's my new meds. I don't know. Maybe that's what I was doing. But it has excellent cinematography. I think the chemistry between the two was excellent as well. Like I completely bought them as a couple. I thought they were very sexy together. For lack of a better, I was like, this is getting awkward. So this is about a sleep paralysis demon. And I know that those have been done a lot, but this just felt really different since they were focusing on the demon aspect of it. And yeah, Christopher's right. It does have a little bit of a Nightmare on Elm Street. I think they kind of maybe were trying to do a Dream Warriors thing where they were going to fight. She was going to fight back. I will agree that there wasn't that arc. I was okay with that. And the ending, I don't like an unreliable narrator. Throughout, you could tell kind of where everyone stood and where things were going and when someone was sleeping or waking, but it did get a little convoluted toward the end. I just kind of accepted it because I liked the rest of the movie. I think the acting was phenomenal. There was some crazy stuff in this film, and I think that it worked. So, yeah, I enjoyed it greatly. So,
Okay, excellent. I enjoyed this too, and this two things came to mind, and you said one of them. I was thinking it should have been Nightmare in Norway, the Dream Warriors, because there was this guy trying to get everybody to fight against it and conquer their lucid dreaming. But also the Poe poem, "All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream," because I felt like there are some cues early on so that you can tell when it's a dream and when you're really awake. But as time goes on, they get harder and harder to tell the difference, it felt like to me. So I enjoyed this because, and it's probably not surprising, but I watched this twice. I watched it once when we first got the screener, and then I watched it again, and it was much more, sometimes it takes me a while to figure this stuff out. And so knowing what the topic was then when I watched it again, there's all kinds of things that happen that don't make sense that now make sense. Where characters did things where you went, well, what? And maybe we could talk about that later. But I'm also glad that it didn't fall into the, are they insane or is this supernatural? Because it was other people that were involved, multiple people. So there was something actually going on. But we do get to the kind of is it a dream or is it real dichotomy at the end, which kind of leaves it up to you to decide, I guess. Maybe it's not supposed to be confusing. I thought the acting was really good. I liked the lead. I thought she did a great job, Harboe, and the doctor was suitably bland delivery, like he was delivering his, his analytical knowledge of all that stuff. So anyway, I thought that was interesting as well. So, I enjoyed it. It's creepy. It's definitely got a whole bunch of WTF moments, and they right up until the end. So, but it does make sense all the way until the very last scene. It makes me wonder what was meant by that. All righty. Well, let's get to more details. And so, if people haven't seen it, you should hit Shudder. This won't come out, I don't think, until it's available on Shudder. So, or you can stay and listen to us just spoil the crap out of this. So what did you guys think about? One of the things I was talking about is like there's a scene where Mona goes next door to visit her neighbor, and the neighbor's like, "Oh, do you want to hold the baby?" But we've already seen this scene where the ambulance comes and takes the baby away. And then she walks out, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? She goes into the nursery, and then she comes back, and it's like, oh, maybe it's better if we wait till they're awake. It's like, was she dreaming that she still had the baby? And, it just made more sense to me later, it's.
I think that scene is reminiscent to that end scene where, you don't know if she's actually had the baby, but yet she's there with her baby kind of thing. I think she's at that spot where I forget. I don't remember their names. I'm really bad. Where she got to at the end, if that makes sense. Like in that same vein. Like I think they're both taking the same trajectory as evidenced by the baby draw.
So this is based on some kind of. It said it was Nordic and Germanic folklore about the concept of a nightmare. The mare was a demon that visited you in your dreams and sat on your chest, and that's where the idea of sleep paralysis came from, and gave you hallucinations and tried to and incapacitated you. And in this particular case, the demon is giving them the hallucination that it's their significant other to the women, and then basically, I guess, supernaturally dreaming, demoning, raping them so that they can have a baby that will then give him life to be in the real world. Is that that's kind of what I was getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although,
sorry, go ahead.
No, although I will say that I didn't really see much of a connection between the guy and the girl, but unless they were in Dream World, where the demon version of the guy, there was much more of a connection.
Well,
chemistry between the two.
That was fiery there.
That's all sexual, yeah.
But I thought they were so cute, like in the beginning, how they would look, and they were smiling, and I don't know, I thought they were really sweet, but
I don't know, something. Maybe it's just that it felt off, I guess.
Well, she fairly quickly went into her own world, right?
Yeah.
When they first got there, it seemed like they were kind of connecting, but then he's gone, and sometimes you can't tell him, and part of that is because of the nightmares. I'm thinking, geez, is this guy never home at night? Well, it's because she's having these nightmares, and the nightmares is she wakes up and he's not there, and she walks around the apartment, and anyway.
Well, there was even, and I think this film also seems to pay tribute to other films. There's a Jacob's Ladder scene where she's like looking at the people dancing and stuff, which felt like the scene from Jacob's Ladder. And not to point out another Dream movie, but Dreamscape was it was a little bit of Dreamscape in this as well, and Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, if Freddy was raping you in your dreams, but yeah, it's got some really interesting imagery. Although I will say, for me, there was one part where I was like, this doesn't make sense, because it's like, I don't think, they explain the whole mayor stuff, but then it's like, when did you have the ability to go in someone else's dream? that was the part where it's like it pulled me out of the movie.
The doctor is an experienced lucid dreamer, I guess, was the implication. I guess so,
but
I felt like he was trying to be the chick pulling him in the dream. Remember that?
Yeah. So that was the one time I was like, I don't know. Now it gets like I can accept that you have this imagery that can go your brain waves and see stuff, because there's actually there actually is technology where they can actually look at your brain waves and actually form visuals from it. I saw like a TED talk or something where they
TED Talk.
showed what the person was thinking. It's like, oh, that's crazy.
I don't like that.
I don't like it either because it don't get in my head. Some funky stuff in here. But yeah, I like that kind of stuff. But yeah, that kind of like, okay, now we're stretching because I feel like they've been very, very straight and sort of like grounded, I think, even though it's supernatural stuff. But that was a point where I was like, okay, now we're getting into like Dream Warrior. But then it doesn't end very Dream Warrior to me. It's like nobody could really do anything. And then the girl just felt so helpless by the end. It's like she's not really a final girl, she's just a girl.
So sorry.
No, you go ahead.
But what confused me is she finally turned on the light and then he got burned and then nothing changed. That was my biggest, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the part I didn't get.
I mean, I don't necessarily have to have, a total happy ending, because even the Nightmare on Elm Street films were infamous for that. It's like, oh, he defeated Freddy, and then the mother gets pulled through the door. So you have those moments, but that just felt like such a cop out, because the whole time I felt like they kept talking about, oh, you have the ability to control your dreams, but I don't feel like she was really controlling it, other than just being cognizant of it being a dream. But then just to talk about other stuff that was really, I thought which didn't make sense to me, but when the mayor or whatever is controlling the guy who breaks in their apartment and starts hitting himself in the freaking head. That was a powerful scene. I was like, holy crap, when it could just sort of like, and that felt like, again, like the Nightmare on Elm Street, like when the guy, it felt like he was being, like the his veins were being puppeting and stuff. So things like that was like, oh man, this isn't playing. And and then talking about the WTF stuff, there's 2 drop the baby instead of dropping the mic, dropping the baby moments. Like that first baby drop, I was like,
ow.
So
it was just so nonchalant. She's just like holding baby, and she's like, boom. And
bye.
like, oh crap.
Well, the first one was something happened.
Well, that's when
it surprised her and she dropped it. I can't remember what it was.
Also that was the moment, I think, wasn't it the moment which I was kind of confused, because like if you find some supposedly hidden room in your thing, don't go in someone else's apartment. But then you realize, okay, it's a dream. So then so the whole time I'm mad at her. I was like, what are you doing? But then when he meets that girl, the mom, and she drops it, I was like, man, this film is not playing. We're just dropping babies.
Well, there was some definite there was a Chekhov's dropped stuff off the balcony.
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, they first get there, and this building has like an atrium that's, it's hollow from all fours, and she's standing on the balcony, and her husband comes up and scares her, and she drops the mug, and we watch the mug fall all the way down and smash
obviously
apart into pieces.
Major foreshadowing.
Yeah. And so the 2 more of those things happen.
Supernatural Rear Window.
Yes. I don't know, just that stuff. So you talked about the door, right? She keeps dreaming, but you don't know she's dreaming at first.
Yeah, you never
and
know.
It's later on you could you have to readjust your view of, like, she's peeling away this wallpaper and stuff and finds a door and opens it and goes into the other apartment. There's like a crawl space between, or hidden passage between the walls, and then you go through this tiny door and you're in the nursery, and the nursery bed has got blood all over it. We're going, what in the, and then anyway, then when she wakes up later on and goes back to the wall, it's not like that. That's
I will say, I'm kind of glad it didn't go like how some of these films go, where it's like, oh, it's just all supernatural stuff, and then you find out some kind of nefarious stuff is happening in the building or whatever, or it could be something involving her boyfriend or the neighbors. Maybe they had like a baby
like a
in
Rosemary's
the wall.
Baby kind of thing.
Yeah, there could be different things in there. So I kept, as somebody who's always, when you see so many movies, you sort of like trying to put 2 and 2 together and see if and it didn't go there. It's like, no, we're going straight supernatural on this, supernatural and nightmarish. And so I kind of like that. I mean, and those moments where it's like, you're not sure what's a dream or what's real. It didn't really it didn't bother me until the very end, when it kind of like boom, 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 and we're just going through all these different things. We don't know what's happening. That's the only time where it got a little bit messy for me.
I think that, like, for me, I guess what got me with the film is, like, when you're first watching it, like, the first thing that really grabbed me was, like, seeing that demon in utero thing, that kind of dream or whatever.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember it. And I
Yes.
guess from that moment on, I, like, started paying attention more, and that's why I really liked it. I feel like
That
there
was
was
at the lecture, I think, wasn't it?
I think so.
And
Yeah.
then that's when she saw the people dancing and
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, I feel like there was so many movies are like this are kind of boring, and this wasn't boring, and it wasn't a slow burn. It
It
just
kind of
it was kind of off, and maybe didn't come
yeah,
together like it could have, but I liked a lot of the stuff that they put
yeah.
in here, and I liked the kids.
It feels like a slow burn, but then when I was watching it the second time, I'm taking notes, and there's
Mhm,
there's not really any dead times when there's not a
mm-mm,
something
something
happening
weird.
that pertains to the progression or what's going on.
Yeah,
I mean,
Um,
you gotta think she's 25 years old here too. Like, it's one of those things that's like, they've got their stuff together. They just bought this. I was like, cheese and rice.
Well, and I will say that as someone that's not a big fan of slow burns, a lot of times the slow burn did hurt me, because it's like it really didn't. It never picked up the energy. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It just
there's
slow and steady the whole time. And but also it didn't really pull me out of it. It just like, man, this is
yeah.
can we pick up the energy?
You're watching people wander slowly in a dreamlike state through a bunch of it and say non sequitur things that don't make any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and even with the final reveal stuff, it was still sort of going at this slow
Why,
pace.
another thing that clued me in is when she's in the next door apartment, and the woman says, kind of screams at her, "I'm awake, it's you."
Oh yeah.
And you're pregnant. That was the other thing. And she all of a sudden gets sharp pain. So I just I dug that.
That was kind of odd too, because were they lucid dreaming together or not? We don't know, right? For sure. Because
I
now,
would
because you find out that it could happen.
Yeah.
But
Was
with
which two?
the neighbor, the
Siren.
woman. Hmm.
Yeah, I
Mona
mean,
and Siren seem to be appearing in each other's dreams. And
Yeah.
and they're trying to figure out who's awake and who's not.
I,
Are they both dreaming, or are they?
maybe I wasn't paying attention, but the woman who takes her to that thing,
That
who
was the
was she?
neighbor.
That was a neighbor, because for some
Mhm.
reason I didn't recognize her.
She had
Yeah,
her hair a little different, but
because
it
she
was
looked
her.
a lot
Okay.
better there. Yeah.
Okay,
No, that
I
was
was
the same woman. Yeah.
very confused, because I was
Well,
like, this looks
actually,
like somebody different.
I didn't know for sure if it was her or not, but it was. But you don't, because she punches her like that, you're like, Jesus. But you get why she did it later. She was trying to actually help her. She was actually
Well,
trying to help her. Because
that was yeah, that was that.
There's a foretelling too. When is it the scene when the because there's a lot of stuff that goes on that you can't really tell. I'm like, when it first started, I'm thinking, wow, they just moved into this new building. What a noisy bunch of neighbors. Wow, there was always
Oh, I
clunking
know.
and banging and crap
Mhm.
going on, and
The baby crying.
yeah, about screeching. And then we have that scene where I think it's when the ambulance, like you hear the ambulance come,
Mhm.
or I don't know. No, they're carrying the baby down the stairs,
Yeah.
but the doctor comes out after him, and he's got this handkerchief, and he's like wiping his nose and stuff off, which is a lot like
Mhm.
what happens later when he's trying to help her and they get in the fight. She attacks him, Mona.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Mhm.
that was another one of those. All right. I think maybe we should anything else anybody wants to say before we wrap this up with our
Well, I
I'm
will
saying a
say,
lot, but I actually really did like it.
well, and it definitely has some interesting thematic elements, that especially in the times we deal with here in the US, but involving abortion and that kind of stuff. There's some interesting story elements involving that, especially when the demon's like, I'm not going to let you abort me.
Yeah.
So there's some really tough decisions there that you don't really see a lot in these types, especially in US films to some degree.
Well, when David the neighbor comes in with a hammer, I kind of assumed that whole thing was to keep him from
going to the
clinic.
Well, I was thinking that too, but I wasn't sure.
Well, his first lunge is to go after him, but then maybe he was fighting it back. I don't know.
But then I was thinking, well, maybe he was going after. Maybe he thought that she was in the apartment and was going to kill her because she was probably pregnant with another demon baby. So I wasn't sure about that. Who was controlling that? But that was like definitely a standout scene in the movie.
All right.
I think they all just wind up losing it after that. Sorry. Yep. That's it. Yep.
Well, and that may be because something happens at the end where I couldn't tell. Apparently, a bunch of time went by, right?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know.
Well,
I don't think.
Well, and I think we kind of saw that with the main couple is that the main girl, she can never sleep because she's always, and then he couldn't sleep because of her. So I think that's going to drive you crazy after a time when you're not getting much sleep, or at least not good sleep. And I think the same thing happened. And even the guy said that, she was kind of driving him crazy. And I think, because I think you end up just,
and him having to get up and go to work every day.
Yeah, mentally just you're out of it.
And at the beginning, when David the neighbor comes in, he comes to tell them to keep the noise down when they're having a welcoming party. And he goes in, has a couple beers, and then the guy says the only what does he say? The only joy I have anymore is sleep and beer.
Yeah.
So he's like totally not getting sleep either. Yeah.
Okay.
And then she's like,
so much more sense now.
And then the woman shows up and says, "Hey, you're not supposed to leave the baby alone."
Yeah. And you have to listen.
That baby's going to be just fine. So so creepy.
All right. Let's get to our score and our favorite scene. Christopher, you were first, I think. So
yep.
What do you go with?
Well, despite my negative feelings about the dreariness of it, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's got some good. I think it's got some good visuals in it. I think it's got some good performances in it. It's just not my cup of tea when it comes to. I mean, I don't mind a good dreary story sometimes, like Hereditary and those type of things. But something about this, the arc. I think the minus of any kind of arc kind of irked me, and then the ending I think is just a kind of a cop out. As for favorite scene, I think I mentioned earlier. I think when the guy comes in with the hammer and just starts going,
of course.
Smacks himself in the head. It's like, holy crap, this guy's crazy.
Over and over. Yeah.
I know. It's a very effective scene to where the other guy's just like, I'd be the same way. It's like,
he doesn't even stop. I know.
I'm not going in there. The guy's got like a hammer. Although I was kind of wondering if he ever called the police or something.
It doesn't seem like he did, but
he was in a hurry
because you got a dead body in your apartment.
Well, he gets there in time to save his wife, but the doctor's dead apparently.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or were they talking about David?
No, the doctor. The doctor killed himself. Did you see how in the video it looked like he was strangling himself?
Right.
Sure, yeah.
Because of it being a dream.
Well, I thought they could have been talking about David too, but I guess they wouldn't have known about that yet.
No.
The hammer. All right. Crystal Cleveland, how about you? What's your score and favorite scene?
So I'm going to give this a 4 because I liked it that much. I know that seems Christopher's play like, what? Crazy. I just really liked it. It just, I don't know why. It just kind of hit some really good notes there. I think it's creepy. It's kind of spooky. My favorite scene. I kind of like. There's quite a few scenes I like actually. I like even just some of the more mundane scenes with like the couples together and the two girlfriends together. I think they're they have a good relationship, and I like that couple's trustworthy. Okay, anyway, oof, I guess my because of course I was going to say the head bashing, but I guess when she attacks the doctor, because like I think she changes, and I think that actually that might have shown that he was actually lucid dreaming with her then. I'm not sure, but we maybe missed it because you did see her face kind of change. You know what I'm talking about?
Well,
when she
in her
attacks him?
dream, she's getting strangled by the demon
Yep.
Robbie.
Well,
Mhm.
well, didn't the demon Robbie strangle him though?
Later.
As her, but it was actually her doing it in real life.
I think it was her, but even though
Mhm.
in the dream it was
Okay.
her man.
Yeah, her man, her demon man.
Because they're not married. So.
Yeah, they're not married. That is
Well, there's
true.
a lot of blood used in this too. I mean, there's
it's bloody good time.
that whole miscarriage thing and the attempted abortion.
Oh yeah.
And, all that stuff. We didn't even talk about that. But all right. Thank you very much. And guess what? I'm giving it a 4 too.
Yay.
Basically because it's kind of coming back. We haven't had many like that. I looked at my favorites from the last few years, and I was really into WTF stuff. And I haven't been feeling that this year. I haven't been getting the movies that have that same feel to them. And this one has that. And this is something that I watched. I was just as interested in, involved in it the second time as I was the first time. The first time I was doing a lot of what? The second time I'm going, oh wow, that's good. They're staying true to this all the way back through. Even then, it's a little tough to decipher. There's a lot of things you got to pay attention to. So I'm giving it a 4. So my favorite scene, what am I going to say? Well, at the risk of seeming like a bit of a pervert, I'm going to take
the sex scene.
I'm going to take the sex scene,
the
first sex scene between her and the demon Robbie, and we don't really know what's going on, although he's not acting the way that we've seen her husband act before. And pretty soon she's on him on the couch and going through the thrusting motions, and then her husband comes in the room and turns on the light.
He's like, I guess
she's just doing it all by herself on the couch, And then we see the video on his phone that she threw a light, so there's other stuff going on that she's not remembering. So that was a surprise. That was interesting.
There's another great scene where she sees her man like crawling under the covers.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really creepy, well done scene because
she's watching him. Her dream
self
self is watching the demon getting ready to
while she's laying there crawling up the covers,
self.
And then when the cover comes up, you can see his eyes going. I was like, that's a very effective scene. So it's got some really effective, creepy stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. All right, folks. Well, check it out on Shudder on let me check here, September 29th.
Ooh.
Norwegian film. I like that Shudder is pulling in a lot of these newer international films. So thanks, Christopher. Thanks, Crystal. And hopefully
thanks for having
Doc will be back next week, I think. All rested,
we're about to get
relaxed.
busy.
And,
Busy. It's the season.
So, all right, everybody. Say good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.